Hello and welcome to today's live masterclass on Zoom. We are very happy that you're joining us, and
I'm
I'd
very happy
like
to be here.
to introduce my guest today and co-host, Kaya Herstad-Carney, tuning in from, I believe, Norway today.
I am, yes, normally based in Liverpool, but I'm in my native Norway right now at my mum's, so hence not being in my studio space, but in a spare room.
Excellent. Nothing like camping out in mom's spare room when you go home, right? It doesn't matter how old you get, you still get the closet with a bed in it. I'm just teasing. Well, thank you all for joining us. I want to thank Kai for making herself available for this class. It's an open master class, meaning you can ask questions, and we'd like to answer some of your questions as we go. Just know that the chat is wide open, so you just put a question mark in the chat so we can see that it's a question, and then we'll get back to it as we go. And thank you all also for spending your time together with us. We're both very passionate about singing and especially about teaching and communicating to singers all around the world the tricks of the trade, the tools, the science, the things that we're learning. The learning never stops for any of us. But Kaya has also been a very successful artist, singer, songwriter. Also continues to perform, and so it's really nice to have her input as well as someone like myself that's performed professionally for decades. So there's another practicality to it all. There is a difference when you're under pressure, under lights, on the stage. What's going to happen then? So, and how does this work? And how does that work? There's a lot of subtleties in singing. One of the biggest subtleties that people don't know about or not enough about is not so little. It's your tongue. Your tongue is huge. Want to see how big your tongue is? Put the top of your finger on top and put your thumb here underneath, not on your chin, but underneath by your neck. And pull that out, and that's how thick your tongue is. Now, that's your tongue. Okay? It's big. It's big. Some people have big tongues, little tongues, skinny tongues, fat tongues, and we need to understand the tongue. So I invited Kaya to come and talk to us about a topic of her choice related to the tongue, and she chose, I think, something very interesting is what do different singing styles have in common. So I'm going to turn the time over to Kaya and let you take it away. Thanks again, Kaya, for being here.
Yes, so I was thinking about how do we relate, we're going to go more deep into the details about tongue, and we might be talking about like what kind of muscles of the tongue and the various combinations when we go into the intensive. But I want to introduce you to Larry. This is Larry the larynx. So some of you might have been acquainted before, but one thing I think is really fascinating about the tongue is that thing there, which is basically on the top of your voice box. I know some of you will be like, "Oh, I know exactly where my voice box is. It's my Adam's apple. It's where it houses the vocal folds, and I know everything about it." But just in case you are not that way inclined, so if you hold a hand on your larynx and you swallow, you can feel something go up and then settle back down again. And that is essentially your larynx rising and then coming down when you swallow. So that would be kind of this, right? And this little laryngeal protrusion there, that's what you will see, especially in male voices or voices that have gone through testosterone induced puberty. You will see, maybe even from the outside, not so easy to see for everyone, but this bit here at the top of the larynx is the hyoid bone, and is actually also the tongue bone. So the bottom of your tongue is the top of your larynx, and that's why what we do with the tongue is so important. So we might go back and meet Larry later on as well. But the tongue is one of the components that affects our resonance so massively. It's not the only one, but it's the biggest one. Is that a good introduction to why the tongue is so important
Oh
and
yeah,
how we use
yeah.
it? You know?
I,
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. I like the tongue bone. I mean, when somebody says the word for it, we say hyoid bone, but they do say tongue bone in German. And I
Yeah, I
love
said
tongue bone.
hyoid bone is the tongue. It's like a synonym, although
Yeah,
yeah, in German, and I think we similarly in Norway we name things how we see it. So instead of thyroid, we say skjoldbrusк, which means like the shield, the shield cartilage. It's very much, and this one, the cricoid cartilage, we say the ring cartilage because it looks like a ring. It's all very
yeah.
what you see is what you call it.
It's nice. It's very descriptive. Yeah. All right. Well, tell. Maybe you can. I don't want to interrupt your flow of thought, but when did you, as a singer songwriter, discover how impactful your tongue was for you? You know, I can remember when somebody said tongue tension. I'm like, what's that? I had no idea that I could have a problem with the tongue, and I later discovered different layers of oh that's happening. But do you remember learning about the tongue as an artist, as a singer, teacher, when it just went
Totally.
oh
Totally. And as a teen, I had this like very dual approach to singing. I come from a very small, if you were wondering where the accent's from, a Scouse-Norwegian. I'm a Norwegian living in Liverpool most of the time. So my native language is Norwegian. I come from the north where we mainly speak in vowel. Um, so like literally IOAR would be a full sentence, which means that I'm also in class A. Yeah, like everything is and I didn't realize that that was part of the reason why I struggled coming into some of the classical singing because everything was not it was and I was working with my teacher, the only one available to me through the kind of school system in Norway was an opera singer, and we have a great system in Norway where you get free lessons through school, but when you're from a town of 20,000 people, there is one person you get the lesson, and she was wonderful. But I didn't have any interest in opera at the time, so I was singing grunge and folk songs and anything from, soul kind of stuff at home. And then I went there and sang I Feel Pretty, and that's where we compromised on musical theatre, basically. She did get me to do a few art songs and various things, which I found always interesting because I love the music, but it wasn't how I expressed myself. It wasn't the songs I wrote. It wasn't the concerts that I did. So it kind of became this thing that I did as a hobby while I pursued my writing as an expression and as an art form. And that was just something I learned about almost like a schooling, if that makes sense. It wasn't until about 10 years later when I learned about that was actually through learning about a still and anatomy, and I was like, oh. And as a dancer, it gave me, it's kind of like ballet and street dance. Like it would be wrong to do ballet down, and it would be wrong to do street dance up. But it's the same muscles. It's just a different coordination. So that's a long-winded little bit of side quest there. But I just remember trying to sing an Alanis Morissette and a Skunk Anansie song, trying to use the technique I'd learned from my opera singing teacher. And the coordination is probably as opposite as you can be. So, I want you to know. And I was looking for that. But we were learning how to sing like that. And I was like, oh, this big thingy move.
yeah, it is amazing. There's everything's possible with the voice, but there's a couple of things that just don't match, not at all, and that then you do hit literally tongue tension or being tongue tied, right? You can't go ooh and at the same time. It's like ooh. You just notice immediately that's wrong. So You guys can trust signals from your body. If it's not working, that means there is a better way. Well, you suggested we talk about how the tongue is impacting various styles of singing. I think that can be very interesting to explore. Just like this is just a little example of what doesn't work. Like, ooh, they don't combine. It just won't work. It's impossible. But there are other things that you can achieve with your tongue that cross over to every style of singing, can make you much more versatile much more versatile singer. So for you asked us the question, what do these singing styles have in common? And just throw it back at you. What does this all have in common, all these different singing styles, Kaya?
Well, for me, it's all created by the same instrument. So it all starts, and here's the rhyme. Some of you will be familiar with this. It's activator, vibrator, resonator, articulator, right? It rhymes, that's why I like that. But it's basically the power source filter or source filter model. It's got to do with the component of phonation or component of vocalization, right? So activator, a breath, vibrator, a vocal folds, resonator, everything that comes from above the vocal folds and out. So that is our pharynx, which is the space just above the larynx, in the back of our throat, the space inside of our mouth, and then to a certain extent in the nasal cavities. But we don't want to rely on the cavities in a nasal cavity. We don't want to rely on the spaces in a nasal cavity only. So, but they do sometimes cause trouble. Sometimes we do want a little bit of nasality in there. Nasality isn't necessarily twang, by the way. And then finally, and this is where the tongue plays in the last two more than anything, your articulators. And I'm going to do my ventriloquist act because people seem to like it. So I can do a lot of the things. I can speak a lot. I have not frozen. I am speaking to you. I'm just doing my party trick. I'm basically just talking using only the tongue. And I didn't say my tongue because I need my lips to do and b.
So are Norwegian people really talented at that? Because that was very impressive. Nothing moved.
I think I am also hypermobile, so I don't know how much but I've really practiced the isolation of my internal, and that was my big breakthrough, because I thought, going back to Anne Søyland, my opera singer teacher, 6 hours north of the Arctic, who taught me how to sing I Feel Pretty, I thought that was just something I did, because I enjoyed it and had nothing to do with me doing the music that I wanted to do. I didn't see the correlation apart from learning about, some music theory stuff. But when I realized that it was just working the muscles of my lips, jaw, soft palate, tongue, pharynx, larynx, and to a certain extent nose, but we're not going to go into that too much with this, and that it was just learning coordination. And it was exactly like learning a new dance. The tongue was just the biggest culprit out of them all, which is why you've chosen this as the main theme for this year's intensive, isn't it?
Yes. Big 5 coordinations of singing. Like you mentioned, it's very similar, right? Activator, vibrator, resonator. Activator, air flow, air pressure. Vibrator, vocal folds. Resonator, the pharynx. Articulator, the biggest articulator in the vocal tract in our singing and speech is the tongue. So this next 4 weeks, we are having an intensive, online intensive training program, the tongue and vowels, and we'll be working on that exclusively for the next 4 weeks. And that means you get 24 classes, detailed classes, where we're going to go into a lot of detail, give you exercises on how to train your agility, flexibility, and control to unlock more of your vocal potential. And so I love that you just mentioned that you didn't know in one of your training phases as a young classical singer who is thinking sometimes, well, what am I doing learning I Feel Pretty? I want to sing Alanis Morissette. But some of the things that you trained actually were strengthening and developing that coordination, agility, flexibility, speed, and it actually paid off later.
Totally. And by the way, I only found out I could do the ventriloquist thing. Do you have this over the pond, the game where you put this really? This is so unattractive, and I'm so glad this is getting recorded. When you put one of those things in, and then you
Yeah.
have to say like a word. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah,
I
my
was
dad's
playing
a
it with
dentist, so it holds
yeah,
your, yeah, holds your lips
I was
back.
playing it with my nieces, and they were like, "Why do you sound like yourself?" And I was like, "Well, it's diction. You know, it's you can isolate these things, and by being able to do minor adjustments, you're
Mm.
not just doing spoken vowels." And I'm going to do a, you know, some of you will have seen this. Do you know what you're looking at? And then well done you. You can have a bit of confirmational knowledge, but I'm gonna give you a quick overhead here. So this is the nose, come down to the lips. There, you got the teeth, and this is how the tongue look when you're saying e, heed, e. So there's actually quite a bit of space at the back. And although it doesn't look like it, there's quite a bit of space at the front as well, when you look at the fact that opening the mouth actually creates less space inside of the mouth. That one took me a while to get my head around. So for now, if you can just accept it as a fact, because we can change some biology, not all, we can't change, everything. Some of it is nature and some of it is nurture. Physics we can't change, so there's some rules of physics we just have to adhere to. But can you see how different the tongue position is here to a hood, where you've got loads of space there, quite a bit of space there as well. And here is narrow, here's big. If you look at the difference between here, is both of those spaces are a little bit more significant. And the pink bit is air, basically. The pink bit is space. So let's just go between E and U. Some of you would be hearing some whistling as well, because this affects your timbre. It affects your overtones, but we're not going to go into that in detail today. But some of you would have heard ooh, the pitch sounding like I go up, even though I'm singing the same note. Right? Opposite, if I go from E to an A, as in had, same vowel, such a different sound. Could everybody hear that? The sound changes. Okay, so the vowels are super important for our timbre, or our tone, if you want. Okay. At this point, Janet, cross-training genre is really valuable. Yeah, totally. I did an audition training workshop. That's part of the reason why I'm in Norway. I'm doing some masterclasses, audition training, and they all had to do a pop song, a musical theatre song, and then they had to do a song that just showcased them the best. And they had to do 16 bars, and then a full song, showing as much as they can. And I was basically, audition panel and just giving them advice. And then tomorrow we're going to be working on the songs individually. And there are themes, and a big theme is people are trying to sing these genres with the same coordination. And nope. Some of the vowels needs adjusting because they help us control our tongue. Okay, so all of you, who have been doing anything with myself or Philippe before will have done some vowel modification, right? Is everybody familiar with the word vowel modification?
Yeah, you may have heard vowel migration, or there's some different to just letting the subtle. I loved what you said earlier, that you need as a singer to gain the ability to make the smallest subtle change of the tongue. Because most singers, the change is so big, it's actually disrupting. But we're going to talk about the what is meant by vowel modification and sound migration, if you will.
Yes, exactly, and it's a great question, or comment really, comment slash question from Justin there. My students struggle the most with their tongue when singing e vowels. Does the back of the tongue have to raise up when making an e? Well, does it? Well, it depends how much of control. So a natural spoken e, yes. But how can we cheat? So we still hear when we sing something that we'll buy as an E. And that is the big super juice for any student. So certain vowels cannot resonate well in certain areas of our voice. Okay, for some of you, you're like, yeah, oh yeah, that's got to do with phonemes and harmonics. And for others, you won't go, huh? I'd like to explain it from the huh level. However, I would love if you can put in the chat where you're at with this kind of stuff, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to explain it from scratch if everybody in the chat already know all about this. But the big thing is some vowels do not resonate well in certain areas of the voice. So there are no good vowels or bad vowels, because some vowels are a gem when you're trying to get into a legit type mix. So when you're trying to sound, you want to sing like a golden age musical, E is actually really quite useful because it does have a warmth at the bottom, but it has shimmer in the singer's formant at the top. If you don't know what any of those words mean, please do ask questions, because I want to make sure I'm covering. But if I'm going, my voice sounds relatively balanced. I should have warmed up before this, but that's a different story. Not been singing today, I've had an admin day. But you don't hear a big break between my bottom and my top ring. Not much of a right. E for me is really good to get into this kind of really usable legitty mix. That's a technical term. A legitty mix. Whilst if I go on I will get in trouble the minute we hit that note. Right? It doesn't have free resonance in that territory for me. So I will have to start doing vowel modification, which, what does that mean? It means I have to find a vowel that does something that helps me. What do I do? Oh yeah, go.
No, finish. You were going to tell us what you do. That's the most interesting thing right there.
I thought you were going to go, not yet. So I will find a vowel that helps me maintain my tongue in a position that gives me the boost that I need without compromising my muscle work to either give me too much tension or too much airflow. Because this is the really tricky bit. Nothing is linear. If you change something in the airflow or something in the vocal fold, that's going to have an effect on top. And if you change something with your tongue, that's going to have effect further down. So yeah, that was the end of that. But I will do the actual what to do. I just see there's loads of stuff.
I love that. The people. You just ask people to share kind of what their knowledge level is or experience level. So you don't go too high over our heads, and don't start completely from scratch. But what you said, it was really good about vowel modification. That's a great example. Where you there's a ceiling for certain sounds, right? So when you say vowel modification, one thing that I really believe works very well for me as a singer, and it seems to work well for people I work with, is to understand what a vowel is. I used to think, kind of like if you think of a photograph, maybe not modern photograph, but there's the negative and there's the positive. So in a negative, if you see, if I have black hair in the negative, in the positive, which you'd actually print out, it would be white. Does that make sense? So it's different colors in the negative. So I used to think of, which I think is right, I used to think of the tongue creating all the vowels, and I used to think of the pieces. The tongue, the jaw, the larynx, the hard palate, my vocal folds, my teeth, my skull. I used to think of the pieces and moving those pieces. Of course, that's what we're doing. But now I think differently. I think about the empty space. Because the empty space is actually the sound. It's where the sound is. That's where the sound travels. So if you change the empty space in here, you change your sound. And so when you have a vowel modification or you're moving your tongue, you're changing the empty space. And by doing that, you change the color. And that is really cool. And like Kai's pointing out, going up at different certain vowel shapes, right? That empty space can only amplify certain frequencies of sound coming up. And when it doesn't amplify sound forever across the board, it's zones. It's like zones. So when you move from zone A to zone B, that shape has to modify or adjust. And then usually it's not big. It's like you barely noticeable. It's not like, that's not going to be the way we want to sing. So it's not going to be a big change. And that's why I think a lot of singers miss it. So if you can think of that, I find it very helpful. And it's more gentle. It's like you've got to gently change this empty space. They're not fighting against bones and tongue tension and pressure. No, it's just that little shape in there. So that can help you maybe when you think of vowel modification. What are you really modifying?
Yeah, and I think another thing to think about there is, okay, why do you vowel modify? And that can be creative or corrective. And for those of you who are into music production or do live sound, if you're gigging and you have to do your own sound, you might use EQ, either corrective or creative. And sometimes it is because, like, say I want to have that flip into head voice. I won't let you. Right? I will go wide vowel and I'll go quite heavy subglottal pressure. That means a lot of airflow underneath the vocal folds. I won't let. If I go, I won't be able to have that flip. And especially not if I go, I won't let. It will push me. Oh, yes, my original. So could you hear that? Yeah, my original sound. Okay. Yes, it is on. Okay, good. So while if I want, I won't let. I have to choose a vowel that will allow for that kind of belty sound. So as a creative, I can go, what naturally, has a tendency, if you don't modify it, to be slightly higher larynxed and quite open, which has a tendency to lead you into a chestier, beltier sound, which if you're not coordinated there, could also lead you to a flip, which in this song I actually quite like. I won't let you down. And it kind of adds this little, right? But that's a creative choice. If I wanted to keep my vocal folds together, I have to modify my vowel. I have to change my tongue position and my jaw position. But to be able to create the sound that I want in the latter choruses, because at that point I don't want the little flip.
I love that. Creative or corrective. It's really tricky when you are, when we're working with you, singers, we can't correct your creativity, actually, because your creativity is like your artistry, your personal taste, your musical style, what you like. And sometimes it is a very important difference, I think, you can make. So don't over correct your singing. That makes sense? Leave a door open for experimentation. You discover a lot of things
Imagine
about
if
your
Cher
voice.
came to, sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, imagine if Cher came to a lesson in your and you went, I think you're a bit too low, your tongue is pulled too far back, do you believe it? And you went,
Yeah,
oh no, we want the resonant forward. It's like, none of your business. The record company would be furious
yeah,
with you because
exactly.
it's a sound, right?
Yeah, we talked about those tongue techniques yesterday in yesterday's live. So another great example of a singer that is got using the right amount of modifying the tongue position to change that shape to get a very particular sound. Things you can do. Everybody can do this. It is just coordination control. And we're going to be working on that the next 4 weeks in the Big Five Tongue and Vowels Intensive program. So I'm going to let Kaya continue on, but I want to my little promotional plug right now for you. Like yesterday, not last time, but yesterday during the intensive, I shared a coupon code that was valid only for yesterday, and today I'm going to share a coupon code that's valid only for today, and especially only for people here in this room. So it is. You can look into the chat and make
In the
sure I write it
meantime,
the right way.
Connie's got a great question here. Can a lower voice singer have a rich tone above treble C? Is it technique, vowels, etc., or physiology that can't be changed much? Great question. And again, I'm going to say nature and nurture. It depends on the training and it depends on the size and shape of the vocal tract, the larynx, the vocal, the internal. And I love what you said earlier, Philippe, about spaces.
Because the smaller space you make inside of your vocal tract, the more you're boosting higher frequencies and more edginess. I'm overdoing it now again. Hypermobile, so I can show off.
The bigger space, the more you boost the lower frequencies. I'm singing the same pitch now. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, happy birthday to you. I'm just boosting different, and I'm using not just my tongue, but mainly my tongue, larynx position, lips, jaw, and also squeezing of the pharynx a little bit. But yeah, you can learn to sing higher with depth, a rich tone, but unlikely to be able to pull the coordination you have muscularly. And this is where things get really muddy, and we'll go into this more in the intensive. But how we perceive a note as chest voice or head voice, and the reason why I do this is because the audience never know whether you're in chest voice or head voice muscles, or whether you're just got an acoustic way of presenting something one way or another. So a lower voice who learns how to thin out the vocal folds, and there's so many words for this, go into the head voice muscle, cricothyroid dominance, M2. There are, it's a vocabulary jungle out there. I don't want you to get caught up in that. We've had that discussion before. I even asked you to do a session, because each method have a different way of describing. I like to learn as much about everything so I can just help my student navigate. And I have students who go, oh, do I have to go into that purple space? And I'm like, let me hear the purple space. And they go into something I might call a mix, or I might call a belt, or whatever. And it's like, how did that feel? It felt great. Okay, yeah, let's go back to that purple space. For you as a vocal tutor, you probably want to know, but for your singer, as long as they can learn to let go, they should be able, that rhymed, I didn't even mean to, then you should be able to access a richer tone higher up with training. But there might be a little bit of a point where that bass guitar string can't stretch as much further. Does that make sense? So that's talking onto the vibrator of the activator, vibrator, resonator,
Yeah,
articulating system.
it's a good comparison to make. You know, if you just think of the different thickness of chords on a string instrument, that there is a reason for that. So, is it possible to do it? Sure. Can you make it be more rich? Yes. Is it going to be as rich as maybe somebody else that has a different color in their instrument? No. So we can't, it's a good thing that we don't all sound exactly alike, because life would get very boring, and so would music. But you can definitely. You're talking about, I guess you're talking about a C6, the female high C. Yeah, every female on the planet can sing that, and sing it in a rich way. It's not unattainable for anybody. It's definitely something it's just there. You get it when you're born. You just have to learn how to unlock it, so to speak. Great. Do you have any other questions? Yeah, so I put in the chat the coupon code for today. And the thing that's cool about using the coupon code today is I know you're from this meeting, so you get a mystery bonus, and that can, when you do check out, you'll get you might get a membership to my online community. That could be worth $250. You might get a voice lesson. You might get access to an online course. Yeah, so it's like a mystery secret bonus that only the people that use this coupon code will get. And it's going to be different for those that bought yesterday. Don't worry, you didn't miss out. You'll still get a bonus, but it's going to be a little different. So secret bonus coming your way. Perhaps you have some more questions for Kaya or me. I would like to just take 1 second. I want to show you what this program looks like, all right, when you're done. So this is the site. When you go to the link, it will look like this. But after, this is the Big 5 2.0. So we did this, and in November, this was the last intensive training we had about pharyngeal resonance. So you'll see the dates. We have all of these classes, and all these classes then are in your archive. So if you click on the date of the class, you have the entire class here, and you'll see we put in different links, we put in different exercises that we discussed. So you have some very clear instructions, something you can really go back to. I think this is an amazing resource for both singers and teachers. So that's what it's going to look like inside the online product, are all the classes. And this is just one. This is just a Big 5 2.0. So you can expect to have this nice archive access to review. I just want to give you a little peek at, hey, this is what you're getting. Great. Let's field some questions. We've got about 15 minutes left. And also, if you have a bit of a song where you're like, this note's not working, help me, we can use some approaches of optimizing your tongue to try and improve that note. So written questions or coaching. What are some good warm-ups to address tongue tension, releasing tongue? And we're going to go into more detail on loads of exercise in the online intensive. Let's see, Justin, this is a good question. I'll let Kaya also give a tip on this. So I will first find out, what can the singer do? Can the singer do and do the forward rolled R? Not everybody can. And if you can't, go online and learn how to do it on YouTube. I really honestly believe it is something every singer should learn how to do. The vibration is going to loosen up the tongue. Have you know there's these exercise fitness studios nowadays where all you do is you go and you stand on a plate that vibrates and you hold different positions. Why? Because it makes it impossible for your muscles to lock. And so your muscles are having to constantly try and they're constantly in a state of dynamic contraction. That means they're adjusting, they're adjusting. So when you do a, your whole tongue is now shaking and it's going to loosen up. Who has one of those guns? I just got myself a massage gun that goes pop, 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 really fast, and my whole, it's so powerful. It's like vibrating my whole body. What's the purpose? To release tension. So works really well. Alternatively, if you're from a country that goes in the back, then you can do that too. I used to do this because I noticed it relaxed my voice. I had no clue what I was doing or why. And I just would try and sing, vocalize through my whole range while doing that. The back tongue one is much more difficult because you're going to get a point in the larynx where it goes up so high, it's going to hit the epiglottis in your voice. It's just going to get a little tight. But down low, it will really loosen things up. And same thing, front tongue roll, you'll be able to take up higher because the larynx isn't going to be quite as high. All right, because to make the you've got to interact with the base of your tongue that's attached to what? Your tongue bone.
Your hyoid bone.
Yeah, hyoid bone. Would you have a tip, Kaya?
I do. I have a couple. There's the super sexy. It's great when I'm feeling heavy. It's a little bit hard to do if you got a tongue tie, or it might take a while, and for some it might help to go first because you actually need a bit of compression. But if you're feeling a bit heavy, if you've been pulling chest a little bit, it's really useful. Because it does take that tongue out of the way. If that's too difficult, you could also, do I have a tissue around here? Well, I've got a tote bag. I'm going to use that. And actually take the tip of your tongue, and then hold that out. It's hard to do because it's a bit slippery. And then go. Again, it's about. So many of us will have a tendency to pull the tongue back as we ascend notes. So it's not really about, we don't always want the larynx in this like neutral position and the tongue in one position. We want to be flexible. For those of you who are dancers, when you're learning isolations in the beginning, you want to move the entire body for everything, and then you kind of learn that. But yeah, you can just put your tongue out and go, but it's a lot easier to go in for the top one. So by holding it, you can really be aware if you have a tendency to. Interesting enough, when I demonstrated doing that, I wanted to cough. And that's just saying something to me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, hold it. The other one, for those of you who find easy, you could pair it up with the lip trill as well. So you go, another party trick, and that would give you even more back pressure in the same way as a thick straw in water will kind of feel like a bit like a massage. So if I'm coming off a cold, or I was working really hard yesterday, then the with the behind it can be a really nice massage.
Yeah, isn't it crazy? My wife, and she's not a singer, so she's always hearing some things that are going on. So some of your clients, they just make the weirdest noises. You just make noises. And then I really like this client because they actually sing, and it just makes me laugh as we're going through all these noise-making things. So yeah, we do. We make some weird noises. Why? Because we're trying to develop articulation, coordination, control, flexibility. Yes, and if you find, so I've given you some different variations because you don't have to be able to do everyone equally as well. You just got to find the one that works for you, and then experiment around a little bit. So don't become obsessed with, oh, now I have to do this and I've got to do this. It's really very individual. The goal is to help you learn what helps, right? So you understand what helps you. This one doesn't, I don't like this, I like this.
Yeah. I had one of the students yesterday at this audition training thing was like, "Oh, I used this YouTube warm up video. Is that wrong?" And I said, "I can't tell you because I haven't seen the YouTube warm up video, but what I can tell you, it's like going to an aerobic class or a, like bumps and tums or a circuit training class versus going to a personal trainer. There are gonna be some things that are good for you." But if you are going to the gym to bulk up and I'm going to lose weight, we're not going to do the same exercises. So it really is about what you or your student, for those of you who are teachers, are looking to achieve. And sometimes you will do the absolute opposite of what you used to do a certain period. Like, I'm sure you had this when you were doing rolls and you were doing quite a heavy roll where you had to be very belty, and then you have to do like a really light roll. All of a sudden your exercises have to change because the troll you feed gets bigger and the exercises that you do doesn't work.
I love that. That's got to be a Norway saying. The troll you feed
Gotta get a troll in there.
gets bigger.
What are you
I
calling
like
me?
that. Yeah, but no, we do say something similar. Yeah, just a good point. If you are looking for a good vocal warm up, I actually spend a lot of time to put on my YouTube channel. What I like to think of warm up a little bit differently. I like to call it voice activation.
Yeah,
So
wake up.
I will.
My name is Philippe Hall.
Oh, there you go. See, I'm on my YouTube channel. I'm going to share this link with you. The thing is, it's all based on sports science. Okay, sports science. Why does sports science invest millions, maybe $1 billion more into getting more output from their athletes, right? That makes sense to all of you, right? It makes complete sense. So if we're going to invest all this money to get more output out of our athletes, then we want to know what works and what doesn't work. So if you go to my YouTube channel, you will get a voice activation exercises that you can use every day. There's a whole hour-long tutorial that I'm going to put in the chat, and then there's the exercises after you've learned how to do it. There's just the exercises that you can go into and do that daily in a workout. And the thing is, all of these will help you get more output out of your voice. So we shouldn't be activating the voice and then be fatigued and not be able to sing. And I think I used to do that as a young singer. I would just sing, trying to get my voice ready, and ended up being very, very tiring. And then I'd be tired for the show or the concert. So it didn't help. It will also help you to learn to get to know your voice and how to activate your voice so you get used to knowing when it's ready to go. So using a nice voice activation video is going to help you. This should guide you to be able to do it on a daily basis, understand what you're going for, which muscles you're activating, so that you learn how to activate your voice. Kind of like really, if anybody's ever done yoga, let's say do your yoga. Learn it, and then you've got to do your yoga, what's good for your body. So I hope that will give you some extra resources and be a guide for you. And thank you, Cindy. It's great to hear you've discovered that video and are using that. Does anyone else have any questions for us before we wrap it up a little bit? Can we, as you're thinking about that, can you give us a little bit of a preview, Kaya, on some little tidbits about what you're going to be teaching during the Big Five coordinations of singing training,
Yeah,
so we know what to look
absolutely.
forward to?
Yeah, the first one will be a little bit of theory. I mean, you probably realized if you haven't met me before, or you already knew if you have, that I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to this stuff. So I'm going to introduce you to some of the concepts in a theoretical place, but I want to make sure that it's also rooted in something you can take straight into rehearsal, straight into your studio, if you're teaching, straight into practice as well. So if we are, and it's going to be around the, it's basically the same. The big five is basically the same as my rhyming ones, only we've grouped the two top ones together with with our articulators. But so it'll be exercises to balance each one out, focusing on where does our tongue help us when we want to move sounds around and change the tone. Where does it help us when we want to create certain muscle coordination, but also where is it likely to hinder, and what are typical things we might want to look out if we're learning songs. How can you learn about vowels in regards to what sound you want to make, so you can make the creative and corrective choices based around. So the second session will be very much about looking at some famous singers and what they do, and tongue positions and various genres, because the big kind of thing with the various genres is that they all create the same, well, very different sounds out of the same systems. And just as if you're playing ukulele or you're playing a double bass, you can play the exact same note, it won't sound the same. But the difference of playing an acoustic instrument with a body versus playing our
Lovely acoustic instrument is that we can literally change the size and shape of our vocal folds while we're singing,
and we can make extreme amount of changes based on our, I already told you I can do a lot of things just moving my tongue, and I can sing without doing anything with my mouth and lips and jaw. I look over tweed and I struggle with but and mer, but apart from that, it's kind of quite cool, right? So the tongue is such an important part of our timbre, our tone, and finding the balance in tension versus effort is key to a lot of things.
Yeah, thank you. That I'm really looking forward to it. Kai is a fabulous teacher. She's got a lot of knowledge, very compassionate, and really gifted at guiding singers. I think the demonstration is really good. I'd like to think of it like this. I'm going to get this raised hand because I'm holding up my finger. You'll see in a second. But the big five coordinations of singer, like the fingers on your hand. When you are in the beginning of your singing journey, or a normal human being, it looks like this. It's like a baby trying to touch things, or just smacking things. And they're really cute while they do it, but then here's a finger, I'm going to suck on it. And sometimes they whack themselves in the head, They don't know. They're trying to develop coordination. And as a singer, you need to go, oh, there's five. Tick, 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 tick. Ah, okay. How many of you can do like that? Not everybody can do that. How many can do that? Right? Or now try and get that. Oh, that's hard. That's totally unnatural. But it's possible. So in the beginning, that's going to feel very awkward. But if you were doing sign language all day long, those things are just going to feel normal. So as a singer, you have to gain individual separation of the big five and gain control over each one. And that's why we have 5 fingers, because we can do a lot more with 5 fingers on a hand than we can with a flipper and a thumb. Yes? So just as a reminder, all these things will immediately improve what you can do with your entire hand. Your voice, is this how your voice works? Everything's connected. I can't take out my air pressure. I can't take out my vocal folds. Can't remove the pharynx. I can't remove the tongue. I can't remove my mouth, my face, my jaw. I can't. It's stuck together. It's one system. Every time I do something here, guess what? It just impacted the rest. I've just learned to keep them open instead of having them go. And on your singing journey, you're not aware that it's actually, you think you're doing this and you're doing, and then there's some things moving there. It's like, why? Why are they doing that? Yes, you become aware that they're doing it, and then you teach them to stay put, and now you've got range of motion, flexibility, agility. So the big 5 coordinations of singing training is dedicated. That is the goal. Create more awareness, create more knowledge, help you strengthen individual coordination. Your singing improves immediately. It's been amazing to see the improvement of singers who've been doing these programs this past year. So we've done 2 already, Big 5, 1 and 2, And this is Big Five 3.0, tongue and vowels. And then we're going to follow up with the embouchure, which is jaw, mouth, shape of that, the muscles of the face, and how all of that is also connected to your tongue. And there's always overlap, your pharynx, your vocal folds, your air. So everything's connected, so we'll have some overlap, but you're going to really, really enjoy this program. Stay tuned, if you will, for our next live stream. It's going to start in a half hour. We have a guest, Matt Edwards, who I love collaborating with, just like Kaya. And let's thank Kaya. Let's say, again, how one can learn the further back tongue trill. Yeah, I'll tell you my trick, how I learned it, okay? Because I'm an American, we don't make this sound. But I speak German. I lived in Germany for 25 years. My wife's French. I speak French. You have to make this sound. So I literally did this. Water. Swallow. Try and recreate. Because it's the bubbling is between your tongue and your uvula. And so if you can feel that with the water, it gives you an idea of where to feel it with the air. That's how I did it, and it started to work. But I was on a mission as a young person to not have any accent, so I probably practiced it 10,000 hours. Right? It's very easy now, and then I discovered in my singing, oh wow, this relaxes my throat. It's like this is no just thought. In the beginning, this didn't making that sound, learning to make that sound did not relax my throat. It actually made it tight because I was overdoing it. I was overworking it. I had to learn to become efficient, and then
I'll add one step on that that I found that helps. So the gargling, but think that when you're gargling, instead of thinking that it's like all the way down, think of it as like a k to an r. So k, 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 like that can help. So if you just make sure that you're doing the gargling first, and then without the water you mess around between the k and the r. And by the way, the we're going to spend a lot of time on, because feel what that does to your tongue, and that's just a sneaky little trailer. A little retroflex there for you geeks.
Oh, it's going to be so good. We're going to go into a lot of things, and you'll learn a lot of different things from these four brilliant teachers. So let's give Kaya a round of applause virtual applause for being with us today. And there's about 30 people with no cameras on, Kaya. So just so you know, there's more than 4 people here. And thank you so much for being here. So if I go to non-participants, we got a full room here. Thank you, Kaya. Thank you very much. Can't wait to get started. This Friday we are starting, so make sure you get signed up and ready to go. And thank all of you for spending time with us today, for lending us your ear. We hope you found things to be inspiring and help you understand things in a slightly new light that can guide you down your journey and help you continue to unlock your voice and your singing potential. We'll see you back here in about 30 minutes. Take care, everybody.
See you next week or the week after.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.